Welcome to the regular board meeting for Desert Water Agency on May 6, 2025 at 8 o'clock. For housekeeping, I would like to remind folks that are in the room to silence their electronic devices, and for those participating or joining us remotely, to please mute your microphone and until you are ready to speak. I will call on directors in the following order: Director Gracia, Director McKenna, Secretary Treasurer Bloomer, Vice President Bowman, and President Ortega. And all votes will be conducted via this roll call. And with that, if I could ask Vice President Bowman to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please.
You may, and I shall.
All right.
Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We can now move to the roll call. Ms. Baca, please.
Director Gracia,
Present.
Director McKenna,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer,
Present.
Vice President Bowman,
Present.
and President Ortega.
Present.
All present.
Thank you. Item 4 would be public comment on items that are not shown on today's agenda. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are not listed on our agenda today, but within the jurisdiction of the agency. Speakers are requested to keep their comments to no more than 3 minutes. And as provided in the Brown Act, this board is prohibited from acting on items that are not listed on today's agenda. Ms. Baca, have we received any public comments so far?
No comments have been received.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in the room or online with us this morning that would like to speak during public comment? Seeing none, we can move to 5 public comments for items that are listed on today's agenda. Again, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. If there are any members or any folks in the attendance today who would like to speak on an item listed on today's agenda, please come forward. And seeing none, we can move to item 6, which is our consent calendar. So items that are listed under the consent calendar today are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by one motion of the board without discussion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a board member requests a specific item to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Are there any items on today's agenda that a member of this board would like to pull for further discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to pull item F for just a review.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right, so we can move to item F, request adoption of resolution number 1343, approving the 2025 local guidelines for implementing the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, for Desert Water Agency. And I don't know who that belongs to.
I'll take that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, President Ortega, members of the board. This is every year CEQA has revisions, and that we have a current resolution, and with those new revisions, BB&K just outlines what those revisions are, and then we have a new resolution stating that we will follow the new guidelines that have been implemented. And Mr. Riddell, I don't know if there's any other. I mean, we can go through the changes if you'd like, or we can just.
I think we're fine. I just didn't happen to catch it when I reviewed the agenda, so I wanted to.
Yeah, this is something that we do it's an every year process that occurs.
All right, thank you.
Great. Anything else from?
No, I move the consent calendar as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. I have a first from Director Gracia and a second from Secretary Treasurer Bloomer. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Director McKenna,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer Bloomer,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7 would be our Secretary Treasurer's report. Ms. Bloomer,
Okay, so in the operating fund, we received $2,090,975 in water sales revenue receipts. We had $52,250 in construction deposits. You can see the individual deposits listed there. We paid $2,152,004 in accounts payable. Our year-to-date water sales are 13% over budget. Year-to-date total revenues are 17% over budget, and year-to-date total expenses are 9% under budget. Active potable water accounts, there were 23,749 active accounts in March of 2025, compared to 23,695 active accounts billed in February of 2025. So that's a net increase of 54 active accounts. Also in the operating fund, account disconnections for non-payment, there were 25 water accounts turned off for non-payment in March of 2025. And then over the past 12 months, an average of 30 accounts per month turned off for non-payment, which is about a 1.5% disconnection rate. In the general fund, we received $926 in property taxes, $417,002 in replenishment assessments, and $417,002 was from private pumpers. We paid $1,115,372 in state water project charges. Our year-to-date state water project payments are $17,540,683. In the wastewater fund, we received nothing. And we paid $92,116 in accounts payable. And for our active sewer accounts, there were 2,246 active sewer accounts billed in March of 2025, compared to 2,248 accounts billed in January. So we had a net decrease of 2 active accounts. And that completes the highlights. If anybody has any questions.
are there any questions?
Just a note, I believe there's an additional, did you put an explanation of I hadn't seen it before. I brought it up during the finance committee. And now it seems there's a explanation of what the investment portfolio and what the various entries mean across the page on those items. Does that ringing a bell? I don't want to scroll through this whole document, but it explains what par value is and things like that. And I just wondered, it seems like that was new because I hadn't noticed it before.
That's been in there for
Oh,
several
okay.
years. Since we implemented this kind of new format, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, that's
Okay.
been in there to explain everything. And then if there's a new investment type, we'll add something to it to make sure that everything on there has a definition. And that's a requirement by government code to provide those definitions.
Thank you.
I do have a question about the revenue for the wastewater or waste treatment. So is that simply a matter of perhaps the new billing system that we have no revenues to show?
No, what that is so it's not that we don't have any revenues. It's that we didn't have any cash receipts actually being receipted into the wastewater system. Because of the way that our billing system is set up previously and currently, we bill everything on our water bill. So that is water and sewer. So there needs to be an internal process to transfer those funds over that are collected in the operating fund to the wastewater fund. And that just didn't happen. That physical transfer didn't happen in the month of March. It happened in April. So that's the reason why. But if you look a little bit further down where we have on here the chart of the wastewater fund revenues, that is actually charting the revenue. So actually when we have earned those funds, not when we actually receive those funds. So we're still collecting and earning revenues on a consistent basis in line with our projections. We just didn't actually get those funds collected and into the wastewater fund, but those will be coming. You'll see that reflected in the following month. It's always a month behind, but it's the end of the month physical deposit. It just didn't happen in March. It happened in April.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions about that report?
Move for approval.
I don't
Oh,
know that
we
we
don't
actually have
have
to
to.
do that.
Oh,
Yeah, we never have. So we can move to item 8, which is our general manager's report. Mr. Johnson.
President Ortega, members of the board. So in April, we started receiving water through the Whitewater facility. Started on April 1st. They had some issues with a pump out along the aqueduct. They had to shut the deliveries down for about a week or two, but started back on now on April 28th. They got things resolved and started flowing again. And we have now put the hydro plant back on service. And we are going up to 625 CFS flow into the Whitewater Basin. This is QSA water that's being delivered right now, which is the water that CBWD owns. That water is to stay in the Indio Subbasin. It is not delivered to the Mission Creek Basin. For the second item, on April 29th, DWR announced that the allocation went from 40% to 50%. I suspect this will be the last allocation adjustment. And as a 50% allocation equates to 27,875 acre-feet for the agency. That's good news. We have our system leak data. See, we had 43 leaks over that span. Vista Chino, which is that 20-inch pipe. We are currently in design for that. It's an old pipe that's giving us lots of problems. The difficulty with that design is that it is within the Caltrans right-of-way, so we have to deal with Caltrans and ensuring that we meet their standards. There's also, it's a challenging street. It crosses through some intersections that have a lot of utilities, and so the design is a complex design. However, we're expecting that to be completed. And just to give you an update here, 20 out of the 43 leaks that are shown here on mains that are scheduled to be replaced. So that's also a good thing there. We spent 314 hours on labor hours on those leaks. As far as activities, had on the 17th, there was a mediation principles meeting. On the 28th, I had a strategic plan meeting. On the 30th, there was a technology transformation committee meeting. We had our special board meeting on the 2nd and a public affairs conservation committee on the 5th. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for our general manager?
Nope. Thank you for all your work.
Anyone else? No? All right, thank you. So we can move to item 9, which is our director's reports on meetings and events attended on behalf of the agency since our last board meeting on the 15th, I believe that was. So we'll start with Director Grasha.
So going back to our last meeting, which was the 22nd, I believe, is that right? Yeah.
The last board meeting was on the 15th,
Uh,
Tuesday, the 15th.
So today is the 6th.
That's correct.
So if I go,
3 weeks ago.
yeah, I don't know. Anyway, starting in May, mm, oh, the 15th. So the Finance Committee met on the 17th, and on the 22nd, Coachella Valley Water District Board meeting. And on the 24th, the Desert Valley Builders Association legislative update. And then May 1st, the Desert Valley legislative update was on the 1st. Let's see, get this right. So, and the other date was another event. And on the 24th, yeah, that was the one, okay. And then we had the Desert Water Agency Public Affairs meeting yesterday. We had a special meeting in there too on the 2nd. Did I get all those or not? I hope I got them all.
I don't know. I don't have your calendar, but I'll have to take your word for it.
Somewhere in there we missed a meeting, and it sort of threw me off because it wasn't 2 weeks. So I had to go.
Director McKenna?
Since April 15th, I attended a Technology Transformation Committee meeting on April 30th. I'd like to say that that's going very well. I attended a very short executive committee meeting on May 1st, and attended a very long special board meeting on May 2nd. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Secretary Treasurer Bloomer?
Okay, on April 16th, I attended the Palm Springs Chamber mixer, and then on April 17th, I had a tribal mediation meeting and a finance committee meeting. Excuse me. April 27th to the 30th, I attended the NWRA conference in Washington, D.C., and that also included 5 meetings.
Mhm.
5 meetings with congressional members and the Bureau of Reclamation, where we met with either staff or the representatives and shared with them our federal priorities and some funding requests that we put in for projects as well. The meetings went really well. Everything was well received. And we'll be following up with the offices on the funding requests to see what happens with those. And then on May 2nd was the special meeting last week. That's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Vice President Bowman?
Yes, on the 17th, I did also Zoom into our tribal meeting. On the 23rd, I attended the which is Agua Caliente Water Authority Board meeting. And I found it interesting, they gave a report on the status of the water in the valley, and they depend, of course, on our salt nutrient management plan and on our alternate plan and all the reports that we submit to that group. And they presented them to their board. On the 30th, the Technology Transformation Committee, and I do also want to say, along with Director McKenna, our staff has done a phenomenal job of bringing DWA into the current time. Everything from the Tyler system, GIS, AMR, the IT projects. I'm quite proud, even though I had nothing to do with it. I'm proud of Esther, of Jason, and the whole team, and we have a new IT guy, Todd, for the district, so way to go. And the executive committee on the 1st, and then our special meeting on the 2nd.
All right, thank you. All right, so after On April 15th and 16th, I attended the Aqua Region 4 event that they put on up in Manteca, so in the San Joaquin Delta. It was focused on the role of predatory fish in terms of the ecosystem provided for the native fish, which would be salmon and smelt, and the impacts that have had on that population. And apparently there are several water districts in that region that have funded this research for the last few years in order to understand yet another element about ways that that the native fish populations are being undermined, not just based on flows of water and climate change and habitat loss, but also related to the introduction primarily of bass fish, which is a non-native species to California, but was introduced in the late 19th century to the San Francisco Bay and now have made their way into the Delta and are impacting those native fish populations. It was fascinating to watch how they do the research. It's live catch, and then they tag the fish and they empty their stomachs to see what they've eaten. These are primarily bass and catfish, and then they put them back in the water. And this has been going on for a few years. It was very, very interesting information that is also, as I said, key to understanding how to support those native fish populations in the future. That was on the 15th and the 16th. On the 21st, I did the internet security training that we've contracted out to know before, and then from the 28th of April till May 1st, as Secretary Treasurer Bloomer has already reported, attended the NWRA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C., met with the offices, the two congressional offices that cover our region, as well as the two offices for the Senate and the Bureau of Reclamation. It was, I thought, considering the sort of uncertainty, particularly with the Bureau in terms of staffing and programs, it was quite helpful and informative to be there at that time. And that's all I have to report outside of our other board meetings that were already on our agenda. And with that, we can move to item 10, which is director's comments. And Director Grasha.
I wanted to mention about water conservation subjects that are going on. And you just touched on the situation with the Bureau of Reclamation and the situation in, I watched the San Diego Water Authority's meeting yesterday from the week before. And apparently a lot of the systems that were put into place, mainly the deal with IID in San Diego and the transfer that they do. And I remember at a time in San Diego, I had a boat in San Diego Bay, and so I was at the time when they literally ran out of water. You couldn't wash your boat, and if you turned on the water hose, a bell would ring at the office, and they would come out to see what you were doing. It got that critical, and so San Diego water agencies got together and created this deal with the IID, and it took years to develop. And they also put in place the Poseidon plant, where they're making water out of seawater and so forth. Anyway, they tackled their problems and solved them, and now they've got water that they don't know what to do with, or capacity. The prices have gone up because of the infrastructure that was built, and demand has gone down. It's a fascinating thing to watch. And then the situation with the reduction in funding for these deals with the farmers that the White House just kicked in. I don't know if there's any way to really know how that's all going to play out, but it's a fascinating thing to be watching. After having the experience in a large metropolitan area that literally ran out of water, they fixed it, and now that created a whole new set of problems. City of San Diego wants to disband the water agency, San Diego Water Authority, or there's talk of it. So it's just fascinating to watch all of these different things taking effect all at one time, and panic in some eyes, and others, I guess you can tell that the guys that have been around a long time know, it'll all work itself out in the end, and no one will run out of water probably, and you're just going to pay more. So it's just an interesting confluence of events to see taking place that literally does have an effect on us, on the tail of it anyway. So that's it, something that was on my mind over the last few days. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director McKenna?
I have none this time, thank you.
All right, thank you. Secretary Treasurer Bloomer?
I have none.
Vice President Bowman?
None from me.
All right, and nothing more from me. So we may now move to our next item, which would be closed session. I see that it's about 8:25. If we could meet if the board can meet in the conference room at 8:35. And with that, we'll close this part of the public meeting. Thank you. Okay, we're back in open session. I am able to report that we had no reportable action at this time. And with that, we can adjourn the meeting. Thank you.